Hi everyone, I got some great news. Ahed Tamimi, who's a 16-year-old girl who was jailed by Israel for slapping a soldier in the West Bank, you may remember the video, is free, which is great news. She's been released, and there she is. That was taken just a few hours ago from this recording. Her friends had baked her a cake with the words Palestine's icon written on, which I thought was a nice touch. So she's free. This is great news. Now, what I want to do, the BBC have written an article on this, and I want to read this article just to show you how BBC use what they class as balance and fairness as bias. Because CNN do this sort of thing all the time. They will bring on Neil deGrasse Tyson to talk about climate change and the science behind it, the provable science, the facts, and then they will bring on a right-wing lunatic who's funded by Big Oil and the Koch brothers, and then say to the audience, hey, they've both got arguments, you decide. Neutrality is bias in itself. You have to be objective. You have to be able to, as a reporter, point to something and say, that's not true. What you're saying isn't true. And that's what I want to try and highlight in this video. So before we actually go to that article, let's just remind ourselves of exactly why Ahed was jailed. So here's the video. You can see here the Israeli soldiers have turned up on the premises. Now, this is just hours after they've shot her cousin at point-blank range in the face with a plastic bullet. She's angry, as you would be, as anybody would be, I would hope. She's angry. You can see here she goes to push him away. He swings his arm, and then she loses it. He swung his arm. She's trying to push him away, push these soldiers off her premises. He swung his arm at her, and that's when she lost it. And she got 8 months in prison for it. So that's the video. This is the article I want to talk about there in the BBC, just to highlight just how they use what they class as balance and fairness, and they use it as bias. So it says this: Ahed Tamimi, Palestinian viral slap video teenager, freed in Israel. A Palestinian teenager who was filmed assaulting an Israeli soldier in the occupied West Bank has been freed after 8 months in jail. Video showing Ahed Tamimi slapping and kicking the soldier outside her home in Nabi Saleh last year went viral. For Palestinians, she became a symbol of resistance to Israeli occupation, but many Israelis see her as a publicity-seeking troublemaker. So immediately, they've given you the Israeli side of the thing. Immediately, within the first 3 paragraphs, they've immediately given you Israel's stance on it. Okay? Now that's okay. That's fair. As long as they go on to actually give the full facts of what has happened here. Which, surprise, surprise, they don't. The 17-year-old was mobbed by well-wishers as she returned to her town. Resistance is continuing until the occupation is removed, she told the crowd. Speaking to the media later, she said she had resolved, quote, to study law and to focus on holding the occupation accountable. 16 at the time, she was originally charged with 12 counts of assault, incitement, interference with soldiers, and stone throwing. In March, she agreed to plead guilty to 4 of the charges, including incitement and assault. The day before Ahed Tamimi was released, 2 Italians, get this, 4 paragraphs in this, they suddenly start talking about 2 Italians who'd done the mural. And when I say the mural, I mean this mural. So this is what the BBC article has all of a sudden started to talk about. So it says, the day before Ahed Tamimi was released, 2 Italians were arrested for drawing a 4-metre mural on the teenager's face on the wall that separates Bethlehem from Jerusalem. Yeah, that wall really is settling Bethlehem from Jerusalem. Israeli border police said the 2 Italian men and a Palestinian who was also arrested were suspected of damaging and vandalising the security fence in Bethlehem area. More paragraphs on it. The group then allegedly tried to flee when confronted by the police. And another paragraph. Last Wednesday, one of the men identified himself as an Italian street artist, Jorit Agok. He posted an appeal for help on his Instagram page on Saturday, saying he had been arrested. So 4 paragraphs they've decided to talk about the people who've painted this mural in Ahed's honour. So then they say, how did the incident go viral? Ahed Tamimi was filmed by her mother, Nariman, shouting at and shoving the two soldiers in the driveway of her home on 15th of December 2017. The incident was streamed on Nariman Tamimi's Facebook page, and video of the confrontation was widely viewed. In the footage, she kicks one soldier and slaps his face and threatens to punch the other. Okay. Ahed Tamimi told a pre-trial hearing that she had lashed out at the soldiers because she had seen them shoot her 15-year-old cousin Mohammed in the head with a rubber bullet that same day. Where's the BBC to say, okay, that actually happened? Well, this is what the BBC say about it. They say the Israeli military said it had dispatched the soldiers to the Tamimi's home where Palestinian youths had been throwing stones at troops sent to quell violent protests. It also later contested the cause of Mohammed's head injury, saying last month that the boy had told interrogators he sustained it from falling off a bike. Do you think that's true? Do you think the BBC remotely think that's true? Of course they don't. But they've put that in there to be fair and balanced, but really it's biased towards the Israelis by doing it. You're not telling the full story. They haven't told the full story about what the conditions that the Palestinians are living in. I will carry on with this article. It's really hard for me to get through it without explaining just how much arse gravy it really is. Ahed Tamimi's case sparked an outpouring of deeply opposing views between Israelis and Palestinians. Many Israelis say Ahed Tamimi has long been exploited by her family, who they accuse of using her to try to provoke Israeli soldiers to film. Again, giving the Israeli side. Her mother was also charged with incitement on social media and assault. No mention there that the mother was charged with incitement on social media, and all she did was upload that video to Facebook. That's it. That was her crime. She uploaded the video to Facebook. BBC don't even mention it. While her cousin Noor, who participated in the incident, was charged with assault. That's the other girl in the video who was holding the phone. Israel's education minister, Naftali Bennett, said Ahed and Noor Tamimi deserve to finish their lives in prison. For Palestinians, Ahed Tamimi has become a national icon for what they see as acts of bravery in standing up to armed soldiers on occupied land. Her face has appeared on street murals and posters, while an online petition organised by her father called for her release gathered 1.7 million signatures. Things the BBC don't tell you in that article. You can see how they've tried to use balance and fairness there to actually paint the Israelis in a good light. You can see how they've done that. Things they don't show you. Well, there's this. This was the interrogation a week after Ahed was arrested. Two men there, two grown, brave men. If you don't give us what we want, we will arrest everyone in the video, he says. No lawyer there present with Ahed, by the way. You know Noor, Marwan, Osama, Mara, he says. You know them all. We will take them if you don't cooperate. It's in your hands. Big brave men they are. You know Marwan, Mahmoud. They will talk if you don't, he says. As you want, as you want. Big brave men.
Okay, want to be a hero. Okay,
you want to be a hero, he says. I don't want to have to bring those children here, he says. You say something, maybe we don't need to. This is how they interrogate 16-year-old girls in Israel. Do you think the BBC showed that? Do you think the BBC showed this picture of Ahed Tamimi's cousin? And that's the damage to his face when he was shot at point blank range by a rubber bullet. Do you think they showed that picture in the interest of fairness and balance? I think you'll understand that no, they didn't. They didn't do that at all. And then just to give you some real context as to what people in the West Bank and Gaza are actually faced with when the Israeli soldiers really do come out. As the BBC article said, Israeli soldiers were dispatched because there was riots and people were throwing stones. Some kids were throwing stones. Well, take a look at this. This is how this is recorded. This is Gaza, I believe, although it could be the West Bank. It's one of the two. But this is basically how the Israeli soldiers react to reports of throwing stones. People of Ahed, a refugee camp, it says on the loudspeaker. We are the Israeli army. You throw stones and we will hit you with gas until you all die. The children, the youth and the old people. You will all die. We won't leave any of you alive, it says. And we have arrested one of you. He's with us now. We took him from his home and we will butcher and kill him while you're watching. As long as you throw stones. Go home or we gas you, it says. At your families, children and everyone, we will kill you. Do you think the BBC reported on that? Do you think they put that in their article? Just a picture of her cousin who was shot in the face, which is why Ahed Tamimi was so angry that day. Do you think they gave that context? Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. To give you some more context of what children's lives are like growing up, and this instance I'm about to show you is some kids in Gaza who are recording a video, playing and recording a video to upload to YouTube. Watch what happens.
كيفكم؟ إن شاء الله تمام. هلا بكم قناتنا سما أند لين ستارز. أنا سما وأنا لين، واليوم رجعنا لكم فيديو جديد هو تحدي الأندومي الحار مع أخونا وليد. طبعا أخونا وليد راح يشارك معنا بالأندومي. بس قبل ما نبلش الفيديو لا تنسوا اللايك والشير.
Some kids recording a video to upload to YouTube in Gaza. Next thing you know, missiles hit. Can you imagine growing up like that? Can you imagine growing up in that sort of environment? Can you imagine what it'd do to you? But the BBC don't actually do documentaries on that, do they? They will send people out to Syria and do a documentary about Syria and how bad Syria is. They'll send people out to Russian chemical weapons laboratories and do, stupid propaganda videos for the government about that. But where are the documentaries about living in Gaza and living in the West Bank? Why don't they do that? They'll do this though. They'll do videos like this, whereas Palestinian teenagers slap terrorism. They'll do that. I am so happy that Ahed Tamimi is out. I really am. And I hope that people like Ahed Tamimi and people in the West Bank and people in Gaza know that there are millions of us in the West who are trying our best now to change things. We are on their side. We know the atrocities that they are under. We know that their lives are extremely difficult and we are well behind them. And the way we should all get behind them is with BDS. Boycott, divest, sanction. Boycott away from everything. Every product that's Israel if you can. There are lists. I would really appreciate if somebody could put a list down below and I'll pin it to the top of it. The products that are made in Israel. Divest away from Israel. Anything to do with Israel, divest away from it. Squeeze them financially, and of course sanction. Put pressure on our governments to sanction them, because sanctions was a major part of how apartheid was stopped in South Africa. It was a major part. It can work again. It can work again with the apartheid state of Israel. If you enjoyed this video, please click the bell down there and subscribe so you get a notification of next time I drop a video. Also, I can't do this without your help, so if you can afford it and you enjoy my videos, please support the channel by subscribing to my Patreon. Link is down there. You can do it for as little as $1 a month, and it really does help. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Please share my work and talk to other people about the issues that I bring up. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.